And a very pleasant good morning, everybody. Welcome to a Super Bowl recap edition of the morning briefing. I'm Jeff DeForest, along with Mike Lubie Lubitz. And Lubie was so absorbed in the fact that a friend of ours that we know very well, we love this guy. He's a huge bettor out in Las Vegas, makes all of his wagers at the South Point, and often posts pictures of the tickets, which people find incredible. They say, this can't be this guy. That can't be his money. But he was invested for, can you blow taps here? $500,000 in the San Francisco 49ers. Oh, my God. Okay. Now, are you just buying an adrenaline rush there? Are you jumping out of a plane without a parachute just to see what kind of a thrill it would be until you hit the ground, splat? That's a rough one, Lubie. I mean, if you can absorb those kind of losses, obviously you're in much better shape than I am. I don't know, relative in proportion to my bankroll, what that $500,000 represents to this guy.
Oh, my God.
But if I had a couple of dimes on the game and I lost with San Francisco in the fashion that they did, and I don't know, and how are you, by the way, Mike Lubie Lubitz? Did you enjoy the ball game? There were many things about it, and we recommended a couple of prop bets. Two of them went up in smoke by the narrowest of margins. The Pacheco rushing yardage, which was at 67. He only gained 59.
Well,
so he lost that one for him.
He lost yards, so he probably would have been able to eclipse it. And then the other one, I guess you're going to say now, which is annoying because he also lost yards.
Oh, yeah. Valdez Scantling or whatever the guy's name is.
Where he lost like 12 yards.
That was a good one. Yeah, and he missed by 2 yards the proposition on his receiving yards. Fuck. But that paled in comparison to the fact that we did pick the game. I think you had Kansas City by 4. I had Kansas City by 3.
Yes.
My final score outcome prediction was sort of a blind guess, but 27-24. It didn't look like it was going that way the entire game. But where we really, this is the stuff of which legends are made, my friend, where we really helped you guys out. And this was one of my theories going back now, many, many Super Bowls, all the way back to when I was traveling over the tram that went over the Caesars Palace Sportsbook, and I thought I had missed a kickoff return for a touchdown to begin the ball game. And sure, I heard this raucous cheer. I was a little late. I was doing a radio show right up until post time for the game. I'm hustling, trying to get a seat before the game starts because I like to watch things from beginning to end. I don't like to get in there late. I don't like to leave early. I want to see the entire ball game, unless, of course, it's already decided. But you never know anymore in the world of sports, especially when Patrick Mahomes is pulling the trigger for one of the teams in a football game. And I hear this raucous cheer going up, and I'm thinking, fuck, I missed a touchdown. And it was the coin flip, which I reversed after doing a little bit of research. We researched these two items for you, and our theory is, you know what the best way to enjoy a Super Bowl is if you're betting on the game? To be out of the action before the game even starts with a winning ticket. So we gave you the over with Reba McEntire, which went against all trends. This was a woman who whipped it out. She knocked off the anthem at a World Series game in 83 seconds. So they put a relatively tepid line of 90 and a hook up for the national anthem, over, under. And we were saying all weekend that, geez, all you want to hear at the end of this anthem is, stretch it out, Reba, stretch it out, stretch it out. I think she had the over, too, because she was just zooming right through this thing. Did you notice that?
Yes.
Looked like it was going to be like a 60-second thing. You thought, what am I watching here? A dog race? This is absolutely incredible. How can a woman sing as well as she did and deliver? It wasn't like it was Whitney Houston or anything, but it was a good rendition of the national anthem. Would you agree? I mean, on tone. I mean, the timing was good, except if you had the over, which you're saying, come on, fucking Reba, this is your moment in the sun. There are billions of people watching around the world. People are watching in Japan. They're watching in Guam. They're watching in Ghana. I mean, all over the world are watching. Don't you want to stand there and look good and look like, hey, I am the superstar singer that everybody thought I was for at least a few more seconds. Bask in the glory of the moment. And she's just zipping right through this song as if it was zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. Why would I want to appease the people who had the over as a play? And sure enough, she gets to the final chorus there, the final verse, and she really did. She knocked it out of the park there with a quick rendition of Brave. Actually, it wasn't quick. It was stretched out long enough to cover the over.
She
oh, my God.
The last note forever.
I was holding my breath. So we hit that, and then I changed my pick. Remember, I mean, on Thursday I was all over tails, and then Friday when we gave out our official selections for the Super Bowl, I switched it up and said it's going heads. I said that with conviction, and sure enough, heads it was. And so we were out of the parlay at 3-1 with the over in the anthem and heads. And then the game started, and we liked the Chiefs, and the Chiefs looked like they were getting slaughtered in this game, didn't they? Very lucky to be 10-3 at halftime. You were thinking, all right, I mean, that's a miracle. And even with that, they had to just forsake a touchdown at the end of the first half there, which would have put them at 10-7 and out for the field goal. And you thought, wow, nothing has gone the way of the Chiefs in the first half of this game. And yet there was San Francisco only leading by 7. I don't know. I mean, people will point to, the Kyle Shanahan blunder that everybody was going to point out actually worked, where he went for that 4th down play. And you thought, wow, that's risky business. You have a chance here to get into a tie situation in a ball game. Very Dan Campbell-esque, wasn't it, Lubie? And a lot of people were critical of that, but it did work. And it led to a go-ahead touchdown, only to have the game's dynamic change completely when the kicker, who had been sensational, what's his name, Moore? He had been sensational. And Moody, what was the guy's name?
For the Niners is Moody.
Moody, yeah. I don't know why I said Moore, because I knew there was an M in there. But nonetheless, and he shall not live in infamy forever, because it looked like he was in a position to be the MVP of the ball game. And that would have been an odd one, right? What kind of price would you have gotten on that? But he gets an extra point blocked, and that changed the entire dynamic of the game. What did you think, Lubie? I mean, it looked like Kansas City was destined to lose this thing at any different juncture that you looked at in the ball game. They briefly went ahead, looked like they were going to lose the lead, be down 4, need a touchdown to win it, which, they were having trouble hitting the end zone. They were in the red zone 4 times, only had 1 touchdown, and yet they found a way to dig down deep and come up with a couple of miracle rallies towards the end of regulation and in the overtime period. And they managed to come away with a 3-point win and back-to-back championships, 3 out of 4 for Patrick Mahomes. On his way to, how many times did you hear the word, well, I mean, with Tony Romo, you heard the word lane integrity, what, about 300 times in a game? The fuck was that? Come on, Tony. What is it? Almost $2 million a game for this guy to go, well, you know what? They got a lot of lane integrity. You watch this lane integrity there, Jim. What do you think about that lane integrity? It's like, come on, Tony, come up with something else. And then, of course, you had, the Kansas City Chiefs digging their way out of any number of holes in that ball game and found a way to come up with the victory.
The Niners, to me, controlled, if you don't want to say the whole game, most of that game. The first half, they did whatever they wanted on both sides of the ball. I mean, they were moving the ball at will.
Yeah.
Defense, Patrick Mahomes looked like garbage the first half, but they couldn't finish drives. And I kept saying, like, you can't come away with field goals and zeros when you get to the Chiefs side of the field. They literally got an interception, got the ball to 45.
Yes.
Get 10 yards. Like, the kid had made a 55-yarder. Get 10 yards. Like, if they were just getting field goals, they would have been up 20-0 or 20-3 at half. Like, they were dominating that game. And to be up only 10-3 at half was huge. And that was like, okay, like, it's hard for me to believe they're going to win this game if they dominated and are only up 7. And that's sort of what you saw in the second half. The Chiefs did just enough. Like, the Chiefs weren't fantastic. The Chiefs, it's a whole different ballgame the way their offense runs. I mean, Travis Kelce didn't do anything until the late.
He had 1 catch, 1 yard in the first half.
You know, like Pacheco was okay, but he had the fumbles. I mean, one he almost lost. The other one he did lose. They just looked out of sync until really like the middle of the third, and then they sort of got their steam. And then, but even then, the Niners with the how do you fumble a punt? Like, if the Niners don't, it's the Super Bowl. Who fumbles a punt in the Super Bowl? Like, if the Niners
that was one of those weirdo plays where it hit the guy as, he's got his back turned and somehow, I mean, just a fluke play. They lose on that.
He dropped it. The guy dropped the ball. It was utterly asinine. You don't do that in a Super Bowl. And that's the Chiefs got their first touchdown on that. Like, the Niners lost that game as much as the Chiefs won it. In the end, look, the Chiefs did what they had to do, and they got the touchdown in overtime. But the Niners got down to the 5 and couldn't get a touchdown. And then in the fourth quarter, when they had a 3rd and 4, if they get a first down, the game's over.
Yeah,
and couldn't get 1 first down. It was like they were this far away the whole game, and they just fell short by this much the entire game. Now the Chiefs have 3 Super Bowls in 5 years.
Yeah, you have to kill the beast, so to speak. And I don't know that the Chiefs were beast-like. first half, their defense was putting zero pressure on Brock Purdy. I mean, he's throwing the ball at will. And, everybody was talking about Mr. Irrelevant, and he's not just a game manager anymore. He's a real, quality quarterback. And you could make a case for that after watching the first half. But Spagnuolo, I guess, did they put smelling salts and ammonia cap under his nose at halftime? All of a sudden, he started sending people after this kid, and he got the positive result that he was looking for.
Yep.
I don't know why he didn't want to pressure him. They were counting Mississippi's in the first half, the Kansas City Chiefs, who had done a marvelous job of applying pressure and then at the same time using lane integrity there, rush integrity, as they kept Lamar Jackson from going outside the pocket and doing his thing, or even running the ball up the middle. They really had him defensed extremely well, had him confused. There was no such confusion with Brock Purdy. I mean, he was probably throwing pinpoint passes all throughout the first half. In fact, I guess, even though you said Mahomes looked like garbage, he still was 11 for 13 in the first half. He just wasn't really generating any kind of positive thing. And, you had to think that Taylor Swift was looking down on the field and ready to fire that number 87 gold necklace that she has and saying, I flew from fucking Tokyo overnight for this shit? One catch, Travis? What the hell? You ain't getting nothing tonight. Nothing. I'm tired, man. I'm going to sleep. It's over. But second half was a different story. It was a big wake-up call there for the Kansas City Chiefs. They started to finally they had gone a long period of time without scoring a touchdown in the postseason. I think it was like 5 or 6 quarters without scoring a touchdown, and they barely made a dent offensively in the first half of the game. They started to get into a little bit of rhythm on both sides of the ball in the second half, and as dominant as San Francisco appeared to be in the first half, Kansas City, you could see was slipping back into it, and yet there is San Francisco with the game won maybe a couple of times. A couple of things, too. Dynasty was the other word that you heard all throughout the ballgame. I don't know. I mean, what's considered a dynasty now? I mean, for my money, a dynasty is something along the lines of the old Green Bay Packers, the Tampa Bay, not the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They finished with Brady as part of their dynasty, but the New England Patriots, 20 years of dominance. That's a dynasty. Do the Buffalo Bills deserve dynasty or dynastic type consideration, even though they lost all 4 Super Bowls? No, they would have had to win a couple there. But there have been dynasties. I'm not sure. Does this constitute a modern day dynasty already? Going to the Super Bowl 4 times in 5 years and winning 3 of them?
Yeah.
You would have to take that into consideration. No doubt about it. Now, what's that?
The winning back-to-back thing is a big part of a dynasty.
Yeah.
They won back-to-back. 3 out of 5, went to 4 out of 5, been to 6 straight AFC championship. Yes, this is a dynasty. It's crazy to say because Mahomes is only 28, so they're like in the middle of it. But yeah, it feels like a dynasty. Yeah.
Last time they were at Allegiant, they left a stench that Las Vegas even had trouble extinguishing. As and they're capable of cleaning up any mess. It doesn't matter what happens there. I don't know nothing about that. Right. It was ridiculous how bad they played against the Raiders that day. And yet they came back and really distinguished themselves, gutting it out all throughout the postseason. So congratulations are in order to the Kansas City Chiefs. If we could just get Andy Reid to stop eating. Of course, he's on a post-game interview. He couldn't been any more gracious or humble about the whole thing. He's on with Chris Berman and Booger McFarland after the ball game. They were just reeling in monster guest after guest, all of the key players, including Mahomes and Kelsey at the same time. They bring Andy Reid up, and what do? They leave him exiting with a complete tray full of In-N-Out burgers. It's like, stop feeding this guy. He's morbidly obese. Would you knock it off already? Yeah. San Francisco already installed as the preseason. Immediately after the Super Bowl, the line makers had San Francisco now as the favorite to win it all next year. Do you see that happening? Not sure.
They have a really talented team, and Purdy wasn't the reason they lost. Like the moment wasn't too big for him. He didn't play poorly.
No, he was fine.
I would put them right there. And it's not like Shanahan lost in the game this time. Like Shanahan didn't do any major goofs. It just, I don't know. It felt like they were so close, and to get that close and just fall short, like it was their game to lose. And yes, the Chiefs did enough and they made adjustments, and that's true. But it felt like the Niners had gotten a score on any of those drives in the first half. Look, if Moody makes the extra point,
wow, did that change the dynamic of the game?
Yeah.
I did want to say too. Still, the NFL. I wish they would adhere to our advice, or at least consider it. No, The overtime rule in the regular season is as bogus a rule to decide a ball game as any I've ever seen. Where if the team that wins the coin flip scores a touchdown, they win, and the other team never gets the ball. That was with the amendment that they made to the rule, which was already an atrocity, where the team that received the ball only needed a field goal, and they won the ball game. Because what are we talking about there? You're talking about going from the 25-yard line if the kickoff goes through the end zone, which they seemingly routinely do. And what are you going to get? 25 plus 15, maybe?
Maybe
so you need to get 40 yards to win a ball. So that rule was horrendous. And then they changed it so that a field goal permitted the other team that lost the coin flip after playing 60 minutes, bleeding from every pore. I mean, pouring their guts out. Guys are getting carted off the field. They're being zipped up in body bags. And after 60 minutes of just all-out warfare, you're going to go ahead and decide the game based on a coin flip? That's insane. So they make the rule so, you have to try and get a touchdown to keep the other team from getting a ball. Still bogus. And then here you go. I mean, everybody's criticizing San Francisco for taking the ball first. I think you want to put the score on the board, don't you? You're going against a tired defense. You get a touchdown in that spot. You're forcing the other team to get a touchdown. But the team that gets the ball after the coin flip and the team that went on offense first has the advantage of knowing that they have to go for it on every fourth down if they're in a situation.
Yep.
But still, after all of that, I mean, that is a clear-cut edge. You might want to put your defense on the field first if you had the choice, except for the fact that if it ends up being tied after each team has a possession, then the next team that gets the ball scores. And you're right back where you started with a bogus, completely fraudulent way of deciding a ball game. Why don't they just go to penalty kicks at that point? Let the judges decide. I mean, it's crazy. And we've said this forever, Lubie, and I still think, how is this never taken into consideration? Because it's a football game. It's not like a basketball game where you're going to throw a jump ball to start the thing and each team has a shot at it. You're talking about a game being decided by a coin flip. But why not just resume the game where it left off? Which in this case would have been more than fair. San Francisco would have had the ball at their own 25-yard line, which they got the ball with 3 seconds to go. They might have even been tempted to go ahead and run a play in that spot to give them an even bigger advantage once they got into overtime. But it seems far more fair and accommodating to both teams' chances of winning than letting everything be subjected to yet another coin flip, which happened to go the way of the San Francisco 49ers. And did they have betting action on the coin flip in overtime?
I know.
That's when you know everybody's gone insane.
You would think.
And then on top of that, you parlay that to what the team's actually going to do. But I don't know that I would ever give up the ball first. Would you?
No, the Niners got down to look, to me, if the Niners score on that touchdown, on that first drive, the Chiefs end up scoring, but they knew that they could make a field goal, and you could tell they were using that to their advantage. If the Niners had scored on that first drive, I think it would have been a punch in the stomach that I don't know the Chiefs would have overcame. The fact that they had to settle for a field goal was like, oh, okay. Yeah, it was like Mahomes is going to get a field. Like they're going to get a field goal at least. And it felt like the Chiefs were allowed to relax a little and just go play their game. And they went right down the field. And it was like, it was sort of.
Kind of had a feeling they were going to get the touchdown there.
Yes, it was like they're going to score a touchdown now. And I wonder if the Niners had put up that first touchdown. Like, yeah, we got the ball and we scored. What are you going to do now? I feel like that might have let some wind out of the sails of the Chiefs.
Would have been a lot easier to keep them out of the end zone, I believe, even knowing that they were going to go for every fourth down, even deep in their own territory. Anyway, a very entertaining game. Usher, halftime show, largely panned by a lot of people. It didn't do anything for me.
I like Usher, so it was fine for me. I don't know. Whatever.
It was like roller derby meets, some science fiction movie, wasn't it? It was kind of crazy. I don't know that it did anything for me. I'm an Usher fan, actually. I think the guy's got amazing talent, but I'm not sure that he really sold it to the people there. A skate save by Alicia Keys for appearing in that whole thing. I didn't recognize any of the other artists, so maybe that's because I'm in the old fart category that I didn't really get it. But I think Prince's legacy is preserved. Bruno Mars, all of those people. I mean, even going back to like when they had the Geezers at Caesars and they were bringing in all these old bands that were popular in the 70s and the 80s, Rolling Stones, The Who, and all of these other groups that actually had their roots all the way in the 60s. That was an odd period of time, but I wasn't really sold that the halftime show was all that entertaining. So was a good opportunity to get up and stuff your face with a lot of food. Anyway, hope everybody had a good time. That's going to do it for today's edition of the morning briefing. We'll turn our attention to a lot of other things and then look for, I think we're going to call this show Bags Juice today that we're going to put up there. Our baseball preview show. Bags Juice. Does that sound okay? It's out of the old, there was a writer named Tom Callahan, and he had a book called The Bases Were Loaded and So Was I, which I think, is a brilliant concept. Bags Juice. Does that suggest that we're doing a baseball show, or is that a title we should rethink? Anyway, it's going to get underway today about 3:30 Eastern time. We'll have a nice overview of the season coming up. Pitchers and catchers have already reported, and spring training about to get underway. So we'll have a way for you to make money betting baseball all season long on Bags Juice that debuts today here on nofilter.net and Caffeine TV. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, hope you guys had a great time. Hope you made a lot of money on the football season. It was Get Out City yesterday for a lot of people with the Kansas City Chiefs and the points now 13-1. Patrick Mahomes went an underdog in ball games against the spread and 11-3 straight up. So tough guy to bet against. Patrick Mahomes, the MVP of the Super Bowl and second choice now to win it again next year. For Mike Lubie Lubitz, I'm Jeff DeForest. Thanks for tuning in. That's today's edition of the Morning Briefing.